Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Director Watch, an AwardsWatch podcast that attempts to get inside the mind of cinema's greatest auteurs, explores what drives them. Maybe we go on a few unrelated tangents along the way. I'm Ryan McQuade, the executive editor here at AwardsWatch, and joining me, as always, is my co-host, Jay Ledbetter.
And today we're going to finally answer the question, what if Atari still existed in the year 2049? We're talking Blade Runner 2049, and I'm very excited about it. This is, I guess Arrival is kind of the consensus number one Villeneuve film, but this is certainly highly regarded. And I'm excited for it.
Well, I mean, technically, like by most people's standards, the highest one is as we learned, is Prisoners.
Apparently so.
Apparently so. On Letterboxd,
I think
it
that's
is
because
his highest
most
rated.
Letterboxd users are 17 years old.
That's fair. But I think of like adults, it's Arrival because it's the most prestige. And then I think that this falls right behind it. It's also our penultimate episode of this series already. We're already
It is.
Just slicing and dicing through.
And Dune isn't coming out until 2049.
That's fair. Yeah,
or Dune 2.
True. Yeah, Dune 2. And then there's even reports now that he has words on pages. Great vocabulary, Denis. For part 3.
For Dune Messiah?
Yeah, for the Messiah. So, whatever.
I don't know that I want Villeneuve's legacy being Dune.
No, I think he wants to just do the trilogy, and then he's gonna do other stuff. That's what it was said in the I think it was the Variety article, is that he wants to do Messiah and then he wants to do some other stuff, which I'm okay with. Like, I think that's
I'm just glad. I mean, Ryan, it's awesome to have a guest for this one, especially a Villeneuve super fan.
Yeah, we had to get his biggest fan on here, and there were a lot of people pushing and shoving each other out of the way. But she ultimately came out on top, and that's Sophia Ciminello. She's back here with us on Director Watch. Hi, Sophia.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for having me. I have plenty of words on pages today to talk about.
What a ridiculous
Denis Villeneuve,
phrase,
my love
right?
for him,
Absolutely.
love in quotes. But I really love Blade Runner 2049. I think that this is a fabulous film, and I think it's his masterpiece. Full stop.
Oh,
Wow. Do you like Arrival?
I like Arrival, but what I have to say about it is that it's Don't Look Now without the fun, the sex, the wackiness, and Donald Sutherland.
Well, technically there is sex, we just don't see it. I mean, that's how the
what
kids made.
matters.
That's how the kids made. Come on.
Ryan, I think basically what you're saying is any film that features a child that isn't at the very beginning of the film features sex. Is that what you're implying?
There you go.
We're already getting into it
It's
today.
implied without being.
Mm-hmm.
This is
it's told
his most sensual film.
Yeah, this movie's
For sure.
hot.
Yeah. And
It's got a bunch of hotties in it, that's for sure.
Oh man,
I think Denis Villeneuve has, the best taste in men for any, across any working director today.
That's
I think
good.
Christopher
Let's dig
Nolan is
into
maybe.
that.
I think Christopher Nolan is up there too. This is just my personal taste, but when you look across his filmography, you've got Jake Gyllenhaal, Ryan Gosling in this, just full 10. Harrison
that dude's
Ford,
an
even as an
absolute
old
beefcake.
man.
Harrison
Ford looking good in this.
He looks
when
great.
he walks into frame.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh my god, it's Deckard.
Oh, and we'll talk about this, but it's kind of funny to, Ryan Gosling, I think, has so much movie star power in this, is this cool guy. But the second we see Harrison Ford again, it's almost like he just pulls all of that away from Ryan Gosling, and suddenly we don't even see him anymore.
Hot people, Jared Leto.
It's like, oh man, movie stars don't exist like they used to.
Yeah.
Nope.
No,
Jared Leto, who's 50, by the way.
But as far as Villeneuve is
crazy.
concerned, Sophia, you and I have both sold our Chalamet stock.
We have
And now
sold
he
our
is-
Chalamet
he is
stock.
very much tied to Chalamet.
He's got
I
Butler. He's
know.
got Butler in there.
Yeah,
the new
that's what I'm
one,
saying.
and
Butler, I mean,
Oscar
Oscar
Isaac,
Isaac, Jason Momoa. There are some
Josh Brolin.
good-looking guys.
There's some
But-
dudes in
Brolin's got
there.
a grit to him,
But the thing about
Benicio,
Chalamet's tough for me.
Benicio,
So and I understand the casting of Paul Atreides. I think it makes sense on paper, but I am going to have a tough time, I think, with part 2. Because that character, there's a flip that comes with that character as
He's
he grows
supposed to be
into
a
his
little
power.
more intimidating.
Yeah. And he graduated from LaGuardia Performing Arts School here in New York, and it's not quite believable all the time. But that's okay. We're talking about
maybe it
Blade
will be
Runner
when we see it in 4 or 5 years.
Yes.
I think Driver should work with Villeneuve. They feel like they would.
I think Driver should just work with everybody. If I was a director, I'd just put Driver in my movie.
I'm just saying he works with really beautiful people, and he's a really tall, beautiful guy.
I think Driver also has a certain like solemn sensibility that works very well with Denis Villeneuve's tone.
He could have played K. He could easily have played K, I think.
Yeah, I think he could have.
Yeah, but Gosling is freaking great.
No, but I'm not. It's not a slight on Gosling. I'm just saying, like, if we didn't get Ryan Gosling,
you know who I would want as the hot prototypical robot man? Ryan Gosling.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of get that because he's
a hot robot.
He technically plays a hot doll in Barbie.
Yeah,
that's true.
And he plays.
Would Greta Gerwig have cast him as Ken if not for Blade Runner 2049? People are asking.
Well, they did cut the musical sequence out of this movie, so we got. Thank God we got that.
Put a musical sequence here?
The Vegas scene, obviously.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Does the Elvis sequence count as a musical sequence?
It was funny, I think, that this movie featured 2 acting nominees, really or performances rather, people that they played last year at the Oscars with Elvis and Marilyn Monroe, and you have Ana de Armas here.
We don't need to talk about that.
Can I just throw out just a really sweet anecdote before we start?
I don't know if this is gonna be sweet or not, but sure.
No, this is genuinely sweet. I know I'm mostly sarcastic, but this is genuine. So I watched this film against what every child psychologist would say, mostly with my child in the room, my recently 1-year-old child in the room.
This movie?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And he loves the film Lilo and Stitch. And the film Lilo and Stitch has a lot of Elvis music in it. And he has come to just fully love Elvis. And I kid you not, when Elvis came up on screen and Elvis music came on, he recognized it and started clapping. And it was precious.
It
was amazing.
Precious. When are you going to introduce him to Baz Luhrmann?
He's actually seen certainly parts of Elvis, the film. It's very funny. So our nanny, one of the earliest days she was with us, she was like, I love Elvis. And the first thing she gave my son as like a little present was a Stitch dressed as Elvis. And so they've got this little Elvis Stitch bond going on, which is just
a little connection.
It's adorable.
Yeah.
I've seen Lilo and Stitch. And I know you're not supposed to expose your child to this much screen time, but he broke his leg when he was super young, and it was like the best way to distract him is Lilo and Stitch. When we got in a pretty dang bad car accident, but he broke his leg, and it was like Lilo and Stitch was his balm, and ever since then it's just like, sorry, he's just gonna watch stuff, and given the scenario, it is okay. And Elvis and Lilo and Stitch have been just his favorites, and it has been adorable. And that bond has just been great. And he literally just started clapping when Elvis showed up on screen, and it was a real moment. It's great.
That's really sweet.
And then he's like, "Can I have the whiskey, Dad?" Because it looks. And
then I poured whiskey on the floor, much like Harrison Ford does for the dog in the film. And he started lapping it up.
Drink it up.
Yeah.
No, that's a wonderful story, Jay. I love.
Thank you very much.
I love Jet. He's just turned 1. Saw photos. He had a great birthday.
Great birthday.
He's my guy.
I'm gonna send Sophia the video of him.
You can't watch it till after, but it's
no. You get to watch it during.
No, we're doing
Please
a
send
show.
them my way.
We're being.
I got you.
Trying to be professional and do the show. But yeah, we're here to talk about Blade Runner 2049 if you haven't figured that out by now. The movie, of course, is directed by Denis Villeneuve. It stars Harrison Ford, Ryan Gosling, Ana de Armas, Robin Wright, Jared Leto, and many, many more. The movie is as followed young Blade Runner K's discovery of a long buried secret leads him down a track to find former Blade Runner Rick Deckard, who's been missing for 30 years. Because this movie is a 30-year sequel to the last one. So, Sophia, you mentioned that, I know we joked early on, but we know that you're not like the biggest Villeneuve fan. And but this is the one that you are connected to, and the one you like, and the one that you think is his masterpiece. But you're not far off. I agree with you on that. It's one of his masterpieces. So I'm curious, what about it, since his other films don't connect with you, what about this one are you drawn to rewatch and want to come on our show and do it with us?
Yeah, I want to know what you don't love about Villeneuve, and then what you love about this.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious about putting your thesis statement out about Villeneuve.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think you can very much compare Denis Villeneuve and his work to Christopher Nolan a bit, in that they kind of, came up not at the same time, but they, were very much a part of our generation growing up and how we started to get into film. And I think that they are similar in certain ways, but also different. And one of their similarities, I think, is that they appeal to a certain type of film goer, which I call the Reddit film goer, someone who needs to go to Reddit right after a movie and detail like the riddle that the movie laid out and how they solved it. And I think that sometimes Denis in particular, he constructs these very solemn, humorless riddles. And that doesn't work for me. I feel like sometimes he's much more interested in building like multiple gilded cages, but he's not interested in any of the birds inside of them. Like he does not, I think he has issues with characters and character development frequently across his films. And I like my directors to be a little perverse. I like when there's something to them that's a little off in their movies. Like I like a sense of humor. I like character studies and like sex and sexuality, violence. And I think that like his films, there's violence, but it's just so serious and it feels so serious all the time.
Very
and I think
objective filmmaker.
Yeah. And I think what I like about this one is I actually think what he succeeds in, where he excels, is he's this perfect director to actually put a Trojan horse into a piece of IP, or like a movie that adults and like teenagers, certain types of like average moviegoers will go see, and suddenly they're watching some like serious adult drama or like a psychosexual tale that you weren't necessarily expecting with all of these complex politics. And I think that Blade Runner 2049 does that better than any of his other films so far. And I think he's actually the perfect director for this project because in many ways, the world of the film is already built for him. But he's able to look back at Blade Runner and, in what I think is a genius way, play with the look of that film, the existing characters, the feel and the tone of that film, and make it something completely different and totally his own. And I think that, yes, like the world building here again, like it takes center stage. I think it's the focus. But I really, really think that what he does with Kay, the Ryan Gosling character, is fascinating. He makes him a character that I really enjoy following. And I think a lot of that is also because of these constant questions that he brings up about human condition and, what does it mean to be human? What does it mean to feel? And I don't know, it's just, I get really caught up in it. And I don't think it's it's concerned with a riddle per se, but I think I love its ambiguity and how it poses more questions than it wants to answer. And I cry at the end every time. I think the final shot is really stunning, and the end of the character Kay is really beautiful, and I love all of the parallel imagery. I think it's stunning work.
Yeah, I mean, I rewatched this movie this week or this past week, time of recording or whatnot. Again,
it's good that you rewatched it for the podcast. It's awesome.
Well, I rewatch them every time, you jerk. And
you say
my
that like
job.
Some sort of
no,
anomaly.
I was trying to think about when did I rewatch, and I did watch it this past week, and because sometimes I'll watch them out of order. Gosh, rude. Anyway, and I hadn't seen it. Maybe I saw it once before. It's not. I remember watching
it the first time since the theater.
No, I watched it once before in the theater, but I just hadn't remembered, I guess, the experience of watching it. I know it was one of the first 4Ks I ever bought, actually. And I think that this movie earned that purchase because it's gorgeous. This movie's just...
You think this is a good-looking movie?
Yeah, I think Deakins deserved that award. I think so. He's pretty good at his job.
This is the first one he actually earned.
Yeah, he's like
finally,
all that other word, poppycock. Yeah. You know what I mean? But I think I've always been like, I think Arrival's his best movie. And then I watched this and I was like, oh no, I am wrong. This is his best movie. And then Jay, you and I, we've talked about the Riddler before, Ridley Scott, and his movies in the past at our old places. And I gotta tell you, I love Blade Runner so much.
Don't say this is better than Blade Runner. Don't say this is better.
I think about it sometimes.
I think about it.
This is not better than Blade Runner.
I don't think that it maybe as an overall film is better, but I think it, for me, I want to rewatch this maybe more in the future. I think that this is super interesting idea, and now has been kind of confirmed as Ridley Scott's biggest regret is that he didn't direct this movie. It's very much in the development of the story and whatnot is Ridley, but
instead what he did Covenant was that the choice?
He did.
That was the choice.
What an idiot!
Covenant is good.
Covenant's not.
Covenant is.
I
good.
had fun with it, but
I think I like Prometheus.
Is
Prometheus is interesting. Covenant.
I like Covenant more than Prometheus. That's my hot.
I think they're both fine though. I don't think that they're like.
I don't like adore.
Yeah,
Covenant.
I'm not.
Prometheus does have some funny Michael Fassbender moments.
Yeah, but it also
Covenant
has two Michael Fassbenders. So
that's true.
Playing a flute,
Fassbender.
Yeah. That's hot. You think Fincher's going to do any of that with Fassbender? Dual Fassbenders?
I really just want to know what Tilda Swinton's role is in that movie. Like, is she like an M?
She's the killer.
Boss?
She's the
I
killer.
want to know.
She should be the killer.
She is a killer.
She's just her her Naiad character from Ben Button again. You know what I mean? But no, I Sophia is right. I think that this movie's gobsmacked is kind of the word to describe it. It's such a I know, Jay, for you it's a movie that you got to just love because of the aesthetics and everything, visually speaking. It drives the whole movie forward. I still kind of think it does have a Jared Leto problem in it. That's
I think he's kind of good.
But he's
being the most annoying man on earth in this role works.
But no, I was going to say it's the best version of this kind of role that he's been kind of doing for the last 10 years. It feels like
it's kind of like a Barry Lyndon tricking somebody into being unaware of how annoying the character is.
That's a good comparison.
That's good. That's good. But I from the get-go being just with Gosling on this ride, this up and down roller coaster, this detective story, it really does feel very much more, I think, even more of a detective story than the first Blade Runner film, and the movie has
such a definitive noir.
Yeah, but but that has a big focus not just on Deckard stuff. It has it a lot on the villains of those films, and if are they really villains at all? And I think a lot of that film it's got two different storylines and they collide by the end. In this movie, I think it's one singular. And yes, there's obviously Leto and Love's their characters are coming after Gosling, but we're really through his perspective the entire way through, and it does have that thing where you're watching and you're like, oh, this is kind of retreading or a Lego sequel-esque a little bit, but it's smart enough and interesting enough and well made enough to transcend that than just like being a freaking Star Wars movie, that just kind of regurgitates the same stuff that we've known. So in other franchises,
you just alienated about half of our audience.
It's fair. I think. Yeah. I mean, some would agree with that also. So I think I might have just gotten him back as well. I think that Harrison Ford's absolutely incredible in this movie. I think the moment he walks on screen, you can tell,
which is almost 2 hours
into this movie, but he's so good. But they make you earn it. It's not,
it really is. I understand
he looks like he's enjoying doing this
market him in the movie, but imagine if you saw this movie not knowing he was in it.
Jay, imagine if
that would have been an all-time moment.
Yeah, but also imagine like watching The Force Awakens, and you see him, and you see them.
I did.
No,
that.
but
I imagine it.
But imagine watching that film and not seeing the trailer where you're like, Chewie, we're home. You know what I mean? And that would be the same kind of experience. You'd be like, holy shit, they got Harrison Ford back for this? Like, yeah, but we live in a world where they're going to put the cool thing that you want to see in the middle of the damn trailer and on all the posters. So
the difference is Harrison Ford hates Han Solo.
Exactly.
And loves Rick Deckard.
Yeah.
And he loves Indiana Jones. He
loves Indiana Jones
to a fault now.
That is for sure.
Because it's like
I still, despite that being maybe my favorite franchise ever, have not seen The Dial of Destiny.
Jay,
you continue to make good choices.
Yeah, you're making a good.
I mean, I'm going to watch it because again, I freaking love Indiana Jones. But
will you after this? We'll see.
Jay, I need you to watch it though, because Mads Mikkelsen, not a huge part, but part of his character is that he's a professor at Alabama. And he would rather go back to World War II, like Nazi time, than back to Tuscaloosa.
Well, I mean, there are comparisons that I could hypothetically make on this podcast that I'm going to ignore.
Yeah, I think that's for the best. Talking about alienating our podcast listeners, you going on an Alabama-Auburn diatribe?
Which figure could hypothetically Nick Saban be compared to in relation to World War II? Who's to say? True. To say?
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? All right. Jay, what do you think of Blade Runner 2049 on that end?
Blade Runner 2049. So this is a movie I have watched a lot. I have seen this movie 5 or 6 times.
Does your wife get annoyed with the how many, when it's like, is it one of those where you have it on, you love it so much, and she sees it and goes, again, Jay? Because I have a couple of movies like that.
Our movie relationship is as follows.
Okay.
Hey, Allie, I'm going to watch a movie. Is this a regular movie or a J movie?
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is kind of a J movie.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go do something else. And that is kind of what Blade Runner 2049
What's a regular movie?
Oh, Devil Wears Prada.
So like a chick flick?
No, not necessarily exclusively a chick
flick. But you
flick,
just named a chick flick, and that's...
But you asked me to name...
I love Blade Runner 2049. I'm here.
Yeah.
For the girl representation.
Yeah, I mean, there's
Sophia's like, I have my hand raised in the back of the room, folks.
A movie she loves until the last 2 minutes of the movie. She loves No Country for Old Men, and then she
we've talked about
punches the wall during the last 2 minutes, and I'm like, no, Allie, you don't understand. That's like the best part of the movie.
Yeah, that's the point.
you know, I don't know. She likes, you know, she likes Silence of the Lambs. I mean, I don't know. She likes.
But is that a normal movie, or is that a J movie that morphs into
Silence of the Lambs is a much more normal movie than Blade Runner 2049.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay.
But this film, I mean, I remember seeing this for the first time, and I'm a massive Blade Runner fan. That's probably one of my 20-ish favorite movies ever. And I just remember hearing the idea of a Blade Runner sequel and thinking, well, that is doomed to fail. Why on God's green earth would you make a sequel to Blade Runner 30 years later? And, you know, I went into it. I was big on Villeneuve at the time, between Arrival and Sicario. I was just like, I'm kind of going to trust Villeneuve at this point. Went to a press/promotional screening for the film. And like Villeneuve's best films, I was just enveloped by it. I think he is such a sensory master, a tonal master, where he just, certainly in a theater where you have all the benefits of no distractions and the best sound, the best picture, it was just one of those films that wrapped me up fully when it was released. One of my favorite films of the year. It has remained that. This watch, I will say, I have a couple small reservations about it.
Okay.
And it might have just been because I was watching it with the idea of, okay, you know, if you just give yourself over to this thing, it will give you this aesthetic euphoria that I kind of appreciate above all else when it comes to film. If you just want theme and want to ignore aesthetic, go read a book, you nerd. But this one I was kind of focusing on, you know, okay, let's look at story, let's look at theme, let's see what's going on here. I will say one thing that bugs me, and this actually bugged me kind of from the beginning. It is so clearly setting up a sequel that never happened. That I think is probably the film's biggest problem in a movie that doesn't have many of them. And also, I mean, Sophia kind of brought it up there. These kind of, does this movie subvert expectations really? I would say not a ton. It doesn't. Ridley Scott is definitely more of a little stinker than Villeneuve is. And I really believe,
well, of course he's a stinker. Jay's the Riddler.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first time I watched it and truly said, if you like this more than Blade Runner, I think you're wrong. And this was really the first watch where I kind of came to that conclusion. But it is such an achievement in so many ways. I mean, Villeneuve, he just surrounds himself with the most talented people in the business. I mean, he is such a great CEO of filmmaking. He's such a tactician. He just totally understands how to exude a feeling while you're watching a film. The question then becomes, does he have the ideas that match that feeling? I would say, certainly when you compare it to Blade Runner, it's not fully there. But it is a great film. Gosling is incredible. Harrison Ford, when he tries, man, he has still got it. And he is trying here. And there's incredible flourishes. I think the kind of short little sex scene in this film is so creative and evocative. He's also clearly kind of got an eye for who's next between Ana de Armas, Mackenzie Davis, whoever plays that love robot never really panned out, but unless I'm forgetting something.
I like how you're like, yeah, he's got a really eye for it, and then he names
can't bat 1,000.
But then
look, Ana de Armas is now one of the biggest movie stars in the world, and Mackenzie Davis, I think, is such a talent. I love Mackenzie Davis. I wish she would get kind of more opportunities at big stuff like
Sylvia
this. Sylvia
Hoeks?
Is that the love robot?
Yes. She's a
that's awesome.
a Dutch actress.
I hope she's doing well.
She was in.
Time to go through her filmography.
Yeah,
let's do it.
She was. So
that's what the people came for.
She was in Blade Runner 2049. It's kind of like her big breakout.
She was in Blade Runner 2049.
And smart ass. And then she was in The Girl in the Spider's Webs, the remake from Fede Alvarez. And then she's really
that was another movie where I was like, that's a terrible idea. I like Fede Alvarez enough to give it a shot, and it was bad.
She's mostly that was a bad film. Been in some TV stuff, and she's on the television show called C, which is on Apple Plus with Jason Momoa and Alfre Woodard. That's where she's kind of been stuck at the last couple of years.
All right. Well, I'm glad we knocked that out.
It was really short. Sophia asked for it. I mean, she was. She was kind of banging down the door. Mm-hmm. She was like, "Talk about this career." Yeah. But De Armas now she's. Mm-hmm. She's not a superstar, but she's a very recognizable.
Pretty damn close.
Not a movie star.
Compared to people in her group, like in her generation, she's definitely on the up and up. And she can lead really, like, I think, movies across genres. Really, it's like, even if you didn't like Blonde, sorry to bring it up, I do think that she's really great and good in it.
Yeah, and Ghosted.
Quickly, just my little one tangent aside from, we're not going to go down the Blonde path, but it's interesting talking about Deakins for this movie, because I think why he and Denis have such a good, sorry I keep using his first name, I know you guys call him Denny V, maybe I should start doing that.
Well, the problem is Villeneuve is, I still don't know if I'm saying it right.
No, it's right. Yeah, Villeneuve.
It's Denis
Villeneuve.
Yeah.
But when I say Denis, then I start to think of Claire Denis. But anyway, he and Deakins have such a great partnership, and part of the reason why, I think, is because they work similarly, and he storyboards everything for his movies. And that was something that Andrew Dominik does not do that. And if you listen to interviews with Deakins, he kind of cheekily will talk about, like, oh, it was so much easier to work with the Coens and with Villeneuve because they plan everything out. And I think with Deakins here, you can really see that. I think it is just beautiful work. I mean, he has so many great films across his career, but it is, I think, a beautiful homage to the original with the colors, but also it feels, with the grays and the greens, but then you also just have these bright oranges. And I think he understands the way also that weather works in the space. I like the use of weather in the film and how, like, rain and snow are used throughout it. So I think it's up there certainly for Deakins and his filmography.
He really is able to.
Now we got to do a what's your favorite Deakins? Wow. I mean, that's got to happen. Get your laptops out. I want to know.
How do you pick?
Okay. Well, I was gonna go down Ana de Armas's rabbit hole, but now we're going down a Deakins rabbit hole. This is going all over the place.
This is an extraordinarily important movie for Deakins.
Mm-hmm. This is the one that finally wins the Oscar.
Legacy.
Yeah, he finally wins it. He should have like a trophy case.
Probably should have been his fifth.
I mean, but I think I go with the movie I just alluded to with Andrew Dominik, the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford.
Yeah, I was like, I was thinking
that's the one.
He might have been annoyed working with Dominik, but might be his best work.
Yeah.
I always forget that he did Shawshank Redemption. Mm-hmm. I always forget that. And that movie is impeccable. And we're not saying his best. I'm just saying, a movie, a lesser Scorsese movie too, like Kundun. He did that. And that's probably the best thing about that movie. And I think his work with, obviously, like the Coen Brothers has to be mentioned.
Yeah,
I mean, like his stuff on No Country.
No Country, my favorite.
Yeah,
I mean, No Country's right there.
Even like The Man Who Wasn't There is great though.
Yeah, like Barton Fink. He's pretty good.
I mean, movie like Doubt, A Serious Man. Yeah. These are like more modern stuff. Like his stuff on True Grit is actually.
True Grit,
fantastic.
That's a movie that gets better every time I watch it.
Underrated.
Yeah.
I'll never forget watching Skyfall in the IMAX though, and seeing those Irish countrysides in the third act, and
That is one of those movies that is almost so overtly painterly that it kind of rubs me the wrong way. But
it's so
I get
good.
it.
It's so good.
It is so effective on like a shot to shot basis.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big fan of his second win, which was 1917, and much more prefer stuff.
He's kind of connected himself with Mendes, which is not my first choice.
Yeah, I wish he would maybe work with Joel and Ethan on like a solo project. That would be kind of great.
I wish he shot Dune. I'm not a Greg Fraser.
Well, like what has Fraser done other than just Dune?
The Batman.
He did Batman.
Well, that movie looks great.
Which I think looks great.
Yeah, that movie looks great.
It's just not my style compared to Deakins.
That movie looks great. I love that movie.
I mean, Deakins is better than Greg Fraser.
I would want every movie to be shot by. I would want every movie to be shot by Roger Deakins. It's like I want every movie to be made by Martin Scorsese. It's just not going to happen.
Greg Fraser should have shot Transformers 5. It would have been better.
Could you imagine if he would have shot Oppenheimer?
Oppenheimer looks pretty.
Even though
looks really good.
But like, yeah, I know, but I'm just like, what would he do with Nolan?
That was Hoyt van Hoytma, right?
Yeah, Hoyt's the
he's like
Hoyt
one of the
next guy
as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Hoyt is the next one. He's the hand the baton off, Raj, when you're done to him. But no, I mean, even a movie like Unbroken, I don't like that movie at all, but god damn it, it's beautiful.
Speaking of movies I don't like, A Beautiful Mind.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right.
It's a movie that I think is actually pretty visually bland. But
it is. Yeah, he is somewhere. I think, I don't know, movies like this,
The Goldfinch,
really let him go.
Holy shit!
Right?
I
never
just
even
a forgettable
saw The Goldfinch.
Yeah, he's been kind of on like a lesser run for me the last couple of years. I love Raj, but
it's because he's with Mendes.
I mean, I did not like.
I think 1917 is such a gimmicky movie.
Yeah, and then like
and Empire
Light is.
He does some beautiful stuff in that. I think.
Yeah, that's like
makes the most of it. But
that's like an elevated version of The Goldfinch, where it's like you're not doing anything here, sir. That's warranted of another Oscar nomination. It's got like 900 of them. But this is I think Jay, you're right. I mean, Sophia, you mentioned his use of weather, and I think that's his work here is the best use of weather, but also deterioration of this world that we were introduced so many years ago, and you see through his lighting and through the lens, you see this epic scope of this world that we know that exists, and it's fully fledged out in this movie. But for me, as I watch this movie, this is what I have a problem with a lot of these stupid fucking Lego sequels that come out. Is it's not going to be the same thing that you saw 30 years ago. It's gonna look deteriorated and battered and bruised. And that's what this world is, and it's desperate. The movie is shot like a desperate world hanging on for survival, and that's what I think is so great about the movie overall, and what makes it just on par with its original is that there's a sense of urgency to finding the truth, both for not just for the characters, but visually for the audience in every single location that we're in. It's you're discovering new things, but in discovering what is new is also then, okay, at what cost does this world now look extremely broken? Like, the sequence where we find the child, like in the memories, right, that Kay has inside of him that he thinks that is him. We go back to that place, years later. It's like 20 years later, 30 years later, whatever. That place is completely even worse than it was before. You look at Vegas here, Deckard can remember a time when it was probably how where they're living at, what it's California, it's like Los Angeles, right? It's like what Los Angeles is now. Seeing that it was once like that, but now it's a wasteland, in just a couple of years.
Vegas is where this thing really starts cooking with gas.
Yeah.
I think it starts cooking from the opening sequence.
The opening scene is a great table setting for sure.
Batista's so good in that scene.
Little glasses.
Yeah, those tiny glasses. They're so tiny.
Yeah. I think the movie, it's interesting up until we see Harrison Ford again and we get that great moment. It's so hypnotic in a way, right? In mood and in tone, that makes it feel like, I mean, this is such a modern film just because of the way that it looks. It sounds amazing. It looks incredible. But it feels like a throwback in the way that it's constructed sometimes. It takes its time and it doesn't, need to explain why it does that. And you can I find myself just slipping into that. But I agree. Like, I think it definitely you experience a shift when Deckard comes back and when you're in Vegas. But I think that what I also love about it is kind of like you were mentioning, Ryan, that just how important the locations are to the movie and how that's why Deakins and Villeneuve have such a great partnership to me, is because Villeneuve cares so much about the world building, like I mentioned at the top, and about these locations, and each location says something different in a very unique way about where we are in the world, about what these characters are experiencing in the future, and about how this world has completely gone downhill. I mean, even at the beginning of the movie, when we get that, the text kind of explaining where we are and orienting us, and we get the collapse of ecosystems in the mid 2020s led to the rise of industrialist Wallace, all of that. I'm like, 2020s, that's where we are, right?
Yeah.
Here's where we're going. Like all of this destruction that's headed our way. But yeah, I think that, like you said, with the locations, they're so important and they're core to moving us along, and to not just showing them though, and showing us like, wow, look how majestic everything is. Like some of his movies make me feel they're also tied to a specific feeling and to an emotion that he wants you to experience along with the characters. And that, I think, is a real feat. And I think that Blade Runner is more inventive, and I like the way that it plays with nostalgia more, which is, I don't know, very provocative, especially for the time.
You're saying the original?
The original, yeah. And with where sci-fi was going. But this one, I think, jumps off of that and plays with it in, I don't know, I think really smart ways too.
I do think that the original is more morally ambiguous than this movie is. There are much more clearly defined good guy, bad guys in Blade Runner 2049, which to me is something that separates the original from this one. But it's certainly, this movie doesn't have nothing to say. This movie is kind of expanding upon the themes of the original Blade Runner. I'm curious, Sophia, you don't like kind of the puzzle box Villeneuve. He does have one element in this film, which is that it wasn't actually Kay's memory. It was, unfortunately, I don't remember her name, which is probably something that I ding the film for slightly.
Anna,
a character that we see for 35 seconds in the movie. What do you think of that?
So I do like this, but I remember the first time that I watched this movie in theaters, I really didn't expect this, and I actually thought it was maybe the wrong choice to go this way, because I actually thought, I remember like so clearly thinking like it makes more narrative sense for that to be love instead, for it to take this kind of turn, right, of like you were talking about with the moral ambiguity, like not having the clarity as much, like what if it went in that direction because of what we've seen,
Kylo Ren Han Solo situation.
Yes, yeah. So something I was expecting something like that, but I don't know. I do think it's yes, like it is a narrative puzzle, but I find the way that the pieces snap together here maybe more satisfying for me than in some of his other films, and I feel like it's just really haunting in the way that it makes you feel throughout. And I think that because of, you know, how you feel about Kay, right? Like, is he, you know, is he a human? Is he a replicant? Like, there's that question kind of throughout. Or like, does it matter at all? Because in the end,
is that a question? He's pretty clearly a replicant, right?
But there are people. This is what I'm saying with these, like, this the Reddit.
Oh, are we
Reddit
talking about?
crowd.
We're talking about Deckard,
like,
or are we talking about?
No, we're talking
about.
We're talking about Deckard or Kay.
Kay. That like there was a whole thing at first where it was like, but is he a human? Like, was this like, did they actually pretend that these memories belong to someone else and not to him? Like, I remember these sorts of theories going around when the movie came out, and I never bought into them, but I think it's just kind of a symptom of this type of storytelling when things aren't clear and when you have certain expectations of it. But yeah, I don't know. I don't mind it, I think, because in the end, like, you still, I don't know, you feel a lot from his death. Feel. Yeah. And I
God,
like
Harrison Ford sells putting his hand on the glass at the end. Oh my God.
Yeah. And that, I think I like that, but I agree with you that is that's part of what sets it up for a sequel.
Yeah.
There's that 15 minutes where they go see kind of the rebels in the sewers or whatever they are. Yeah. Where I'm like, oh boy, this is what you cut out.
Well, this is well, isn't that like the basis of the TV show that they're trying to make?
They were going to do the TV show, which they're not doing anymore.
Right.
I thought that they were still.
Are they doing it for him? I think they're doing a different show than they originally
planned, which is not going to be connected to this film.
I don't think so.
Which is a stupid mistake. But
I mean, apparently Harrison Ford will just be in anything these days. So
yeah, he really will.
Just
bring him in, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, but good luck getting Gosling back if you can.
Well, he died.
Well, does he though? If he's a machine, you could probably bring him back.
I think that's also where some of this like theorizing came from. It's like
if he's died, then he can come back.
Because the way
shot of him dying in the
snow
is exquisite.
Yeah. And the way that he interacts with the snow, and compared to like other characters, like the way that Joy interacts with the rain, right, is very different. Yeah. And that's, I don't know, it's another interesting touch to the story visually.
But then like, you know, it's interesting when you see you're talking about those theories, and those have been the theories that have been sort of the lingering questions that have been at the helm of this franchise or this property. It's not a franchise, this property for the last 30 years of Ford and Ridley Scott going back and forth and being asked, is Deckard a replicant for, you know, the legacy of this movie? And then they still don't answer the damn thing, even though they've, you know, Ridley has stated that he thinks he's this
movie does not. This movie says Deckard is not a replicant. No, it says he's not a replicant.
This movie,
This movie, I mean, Philip K. Dick clearly stated that he was a human in the original novels. And Ridley Scott has gone on this parade for the last 30 years. And
in the final cut, he does the unicorn thing.
Yeah. And so he's and Ford's like, I don't give a damn. Because you know that Harrison Ford doesn't give a damn.
Ford firmly believes that he's a human.
Yeah.
Ford cares very much about Blade Runner and Deckard.
And so as much as Harrison Ford can care about something, because he's still Harrison Ford
more than he loves any human being on Earth.
Yeah, goddamn, he's a human. But I think that when I first saw the film, and still seeing it now, I think the payoff of Ford is perfect, because, and it almost feels like it is this deconstruction of the Lego sequel and the importance of new characters, and the idea of you've based this entire film on following Ryan Gosling, who is in the same job as Harrison Ford in the original. And you have put in these memories that, oh, is he going to be like Deckard's son? Oh, is he going to be the leader of the resistance? Oh, he's going to be all these things. and you realize, nope, it's a lie. It's been planted by the same person who essentially built them and is hiding in plain sight. And then you end up having to deal with his emotions and how he feels, because the test that he has to do, which the sort of baseline tests that he does early on in the film, fantastic.
Cells interlinked.
Interlinked cells.
And that is from that book that he shows to Joy later in the film. It's called, like, I can't remember what it's called.
But he
explicitly like shows it to Joy as like, you hate this book or whatever.
Yeah.
But
and then, you know, when he's
a Russian book,
when he's realized that his purpose is essentially not to be this savior, that he's met a dead end in all this, he combusts, and it provides, I think, your theories that you're talking about, Sophia, is like, that's human emotion. This whole movie is of the idea of now, you know, the first film is introducing these ideas, but this movie is really about blending both replicants and humans even more so. The lines are very much trying to become blurred and everything, and that's where Leto's soliloquies about trying to make the perfect replicant to, you know, and basically he can't grow them from infancy. He's growing them at this really, you know,
that one scene where he kind of births
when he births one and then he kills it is terrifying.
Damn good.
It's terrifying. Yeah.
Is this movie any more philosophically complicated than Blade Runner? Because I don't think it is.
I think that the first one's much more philosophical, but I think that this still, the questions here are interesting enough that it's not. Mm-hmm. It's like, I'm not saying it's not a puff. Sure. It's not a puff ripoff. It's trying to advance, I think, the questions that the first film answered or asked, and not necessarily even providing answers the full way. And I think that that's great. It makes this is why this movie was probably inaccessible to most audiences, is because they want to be spoon-fed certain things and given answers in this movie. It's also a niche property. It always has
also
been.
Why would anyone think that how much did this movie cost?
This movie cost
$150 million?
150 to 185 million dollars. So let's go 175 in the middle. 170.
Zaslav would never.
No.
and it made 267, but that's not even scratching the surface of what it would
You're
need
not
to
going to do it after marketing
to make.
That.
You're not even getting to a 2-time multiplier at that point. Yeah, even if I gave you 150, no. And so it's extremely, but it also
artistically a success.
I mean, it does
fall. It was doomed from the start.
But Jay, it goes along the lines of James Gray, right? What does James Gray always say? Where he's like, you know, studios have to make some films sometimes that aren't going to always be successful.
Not for $150 million.
But not for, he's not talking about $150 million, but I mean,
you have to
this
have
thing has had
from
big legs.
People who love going to the movies.
It's also aged extremely well.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure it's made some money VOD and all that stuff.
Because it was one of the first, I'm telling you, it was one of the first 4Ks when that started coming out a couple of years ago that I remember everyone was kind of buying, because this is the movie you show if you're at Best Buy, if you're an employee. You're like, you want to see the colors pop?
That's a good series. Movies to show at Best Buy.
Right? Like, I think it's like
Planet Earth and Blade Runner 2049.
Sure. Well, yeah, because you're literally showing a deteriorated Earth at such a great palette, you know. Roger Deakins movies.
When this thing turns orange, it transcends.
Yeah,
It really does.
It also,
I love the purples too.
It also does a great job when it turns orange of shutting off the score. Because I think
there's a big old honking score in this one.
Mm-hmm.
I think that might be the one thing that's different from the original in this, is that the score is a little too much here. Like Zimmer is, I think he's doing way too much.
Crank it up sometimes.
Yeah, it's like, buddy, I know what you're trying to be, but you're not. But you're not.
To be clear, We all loved Oppenheimer. That is the most aggressive score of the
It
last
is so
decade.
aggressive.
But yeah, I guess that is true.
When it's
But
like, oh wait, I can't hear what a character's saying. Who cares?
Who cares?
You're like,
It's like maybe if I see it a fifth time, I'll know.
cells interlocked. Literally, particles interlocked.
I think though on the ideas, I do think I agree that Blade Runner has stronger ideas, and this doesn't necessarily advance sci-fi forward when it comes to ideas. I do think it does so visually. I do think it is like one of the great works of science fiction that we have. But I think that the idea that humans are threatened they're threatened with the idea that replicants can reproduce. And this kind of ensures that they can, defeat any sort of upcoming apocalypse. And then you have this K character, the Ryan Gosling, who he isn't just the one who figures this out. Initially in the movie, you think he might be the exemplar of it. Like he might be the chosen one, the Messiah, if you will.
Yeah.
But in fact, he's just a copy of that, right? Like he's just a replica of that. And I think that in the end, like he's still changed by having these thoughts that he could be something different, that he could be the one. And does that make him more human in a way?
Or does it make him less human because he can literally be replicated?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's an interesting idea when you think about it that way.
And also too, his purpose is bigger than saving the universe. It's saving these two people and saving this relationship, and which is essential, which is, and choosing not to kill Deckard
or saving this AI species. If
exactly.
That's what we want to call it.
Yeah. Intimate yet grand at the same time.
Exactly.
I think
we'll figure it out.
Villeneuve
in
is
the
at his
sequel.
best, he does that.
Blade Runner 2054.
Well, no, but I just think that you're right, Sophia. It's like I was saying earlier, it doesn't ask new questions. What it does is it expands off of the questions that are already there. That can be good sci-fi too, is just taking those and stretching them out and having the audience go along, and also having those questions feel realistic within the world and the rules that have already established within the franchise and the mythology. And so, and not trying to, because a lot of these movies nowadays, when they try to do this, they convolute the storylines, or they pull, or fans are picking and pulling this apart. This is kind of weirdly one of those cases where the property can be, if it's in the hands of somebody that knows what they're doing, can really be carte blanche to then just kind of ask different versions of the questions or extend those questions out.
They're asking different versions of the same question.
Yes, but they're also different versions of the same question, because don't we ask the same versions of different versions of the question in life in general?
Well,
mostly.
That's the thing about Denis Villeneuve. He's derivative of everything that he loves.
Yeah,
that
but
is the Villeneuve thing.
Yes, but being derivative here is kind of the point. So the same questions of the oppressed.
Is this a replicant?
That's a cop out.
It's not a cop out. Like we have history is always doomed to repeat itself. It's the basic things behind civilization. And sounding like Jared Leto the more and more I talk about this movie. But
can we talk about him for a second?
Let's talk.
Hell yeah. His eyes.
The fact that David Bowie was the initial choice.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about
that. But he passed away before shooting. And I do think the key there, number one, I just wish David Bowie was still alive so he could have played that part, because I think it would have been great.
Who would have done?
David Bowie was such a good actor.
Yeah, he was. But I think one of the things I go back to is, should this character have been older? I find Jared Leto's youth almost to be silly, in addition to the way that he plays this character.
But here's the thing, he's not actually young.
But he just looks young. Yeah, that's true. And those contacts don't help.
He was almost 50 when this movie was made.
Oh my god.
I mean, credit to him. He looks 30. Young.
Yeah.
No, he's got the fountain of youth He's Dr. Morbius. You know, so who do you think could have done a better job? Because he is kind of.
I actually think he's okay again, as far as he's such an annoying person that it kind of works.
Yeah, but I think. But I don't know. There's sort of he does have the slime factor.
I don't know. Just give it to Bill Camp. When in doubt, just give it to Bill Camp.
What about Cillian Murphy?
Oh, I mean, yeah, but
that's if you want to be serious.
To Nolan reach a fever pitch.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean,
he just has the weird.
Give it to Rylance.
Oh
yeah, Rylance would have gone.
Yeah, he would have gone.
He would have gone 15. Sully. Yeah, he would have. Yeah, but you all would have loved. It would have been so good.
He won an Oscar for such an understated, brilliant performance, and he was like, "Well, I don't have to do that anymore."
He's like, "I'm done.
We're never dully when you're Sully." You know, and it's he's eating Timothy Chalamet and stuff. But
you know, shouldn't have played this character, Timothy Chalamet.
I was thinking like the other worst version of this performance would have been like Rami Malek, maybe, because he's such a good creep. He would have been really good.
Been cast, I think, if this were made like this year.
But I think he would have. I think he would have been. I think he would have been a little bit more creepy and less annoying. Like I don't know.
Look at who could have.
I think Malik's a little bit better than Leno. That's my hot take. Not for their Oscar wins.
As
they
an
both
actor?
have. Yeah.
Rami Malek is really good in Oppenheimer.
Yeah,
I like him a lot in Oppenheimer.
Yeah. He's like he just walks in and he goes, "You know what, Robert Downey Jr., fuck you," and that's his character, and it's great. It's super good. He's like, "Oh no, Louis Stroud, what an asshole," and because wouldn't it's like the whole thing about, just side tangent, the whole thing about him in that movie is you see him and you're like, oh, is he just here to fumble a clipboard? And then the best thing about it is like, no, he's actually coming back later. Remember that guy that fumbled the clipboard? He's actually the most important character in this movie.
Should I go see Oppenheimer again?
I think so. I think do you think you got time before you head on a trip, right?
Oh my God.
We got to get it over a bill. We got to get it over
Dafoe.
Ooh.
Oh.
He's kind of doing that with Poor Things, isn't he? He's kind of playing an inventor, sort of.
He would have been good. I like that.
That would have been good.
Damn. Again, I actually think Jared Leto was good in this, so I don't really care. But if I'm doing an alternate casting, I think
somebody's
my weak spot.
Somebody's small with a jawline. Yeah. Yeah.
And somebody who will just fully give themselves over without any vanity. Jared Leto has a lot of vanity.
What do we think of DeArmas in this movie? And I think it's still her best performance to me. Maybe Knives Out
performance,
but I think that it's definitely better than Blonde. But I just remember,
I think she pops so hard in that Bond movie.
That is true. I forgot about that. She where you're like, oh, just give her the movie. What are we doing with Léa Seydoux? Which, I mean, I love Léa Seydoux, but she's just not. She was wrongly cast in that entire.
She's
series.
Not like the Ana de Armas part in that movie is just so it's everything in just a few minutes.
It really is like, why isn't this movie just about her?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, her and Bond just like being two people drinking and having fun. But no, I think
she's good in this. I think she's great.
I really buy her chemistry with Gosling so well. To when love breaks the device, it still always breaks my heart. It always really does.
Too, and that's another. You have to remember that she's all zeros and ones.
Exactly.
She's code.
Yeah, which is a testament, I think, to the film to get you to buy into this artificial love story, right?
Wonder if he saw her and maybe had some thoughts on that one.
Oh, okay.
Her definitely pushes it way further in that way, which I appreciate.
Yes.
Her is a freakier movie than this. To Sophia's
they
point.
Literally have the similar sex
scene in this movie. Although there were like half a dozen times where I thought to myself, I remember the scene being so much longer than it is.
Yeah.
I thought the sex scene was so much longer. I thought the Elvis sequence was so much longer, which to me, I remember watching this movie for the first time. I was like, that's like scene of the year. That was unbelievable. And in this film, this watch, I was like, there's like 30 seconds of Elvis. What was I thinking? I mean, what was I thinking the first time I watched this movie?
Well, that part in particular is just so transportive. I think that's like one of the ones I remembered most vividly from my first watch of it. And it's also I would never compare Villeneuve to Kubrick except for here, where that reminds me of The Shining, like that kind of empty bar, the way that the camera is following him, and he just feels so alone, but like he's also a part of something, I don't know, very sinister and something that he shouldn't maybe be experiencing. I think it's a brilliant scene.
If there is one thing about, you watch all of these movies in succession like this, and I love Villeneuve, but you do have this feeling in every one of his movies, you're like, please compare me to Kubrick. Please compare me to Kubrick. Mm-hmm. Please compare me to these people that I admire so much. And you feel that in this one a little bit as well. Obviously, it being a sequel lends itself to those kind of comparisons, but you see it in just about all of his movies. I would say Arrival is the only one to me that truly feels like his vision to me, that feels entirely personal.
Like there's somebody. Well, I would argue that Dune does feel personal, at least for him, because of his attachment to the source material. But obviously, that's also just this big giant thing as well. It's also his first time that movie is the first time he's been a screenwriter since Unsundis.
I think maybe Sicario feels like a singular vision, but it's a singular vision with holes in it.
It also has and also we've seen going forward that that's also a Taylor Sheridan sort of thing as well too. And I think
that's true. That's very Sheridan.
In that
God, we went deep on Sheridan in that episode.
I bet.
We think of
nothing less.
He's kind of the most important person in Hollywood right now,
and he's bizarre. Also kind of people don't know what to do with him. He's questionable. Some people like him.
What are his politics exactly? Who knows? Who cares? I don't know.
I don't want to know.
Sophia, do you like other Villeneuve films, or are you just kind of like whatever?
I'm mostly, I would say, whatever. I do like Arrival, but the others. I think the thing is that I'm such a rewatcher of movies that I love, and I've never had the impulse to revisit any of these movies aside from Blade Runner 2049 and Arrival. I will rewatch Dune I will rewatch that when part 2 is coming closer to that. And I read and because I read the book too, I want to remember all of that together. But
I feel like it'll work better for you too, because you'll have the whole book, right?
Yeah, I think if I can really watch them closely, in succession, that'll be good for me. But yeah, for the most part, I find them kind of empty. Like, I just think they're nice to look at.
What a lot of people think.
And I don't know. I think they're also just not for me too, in the same way that I don't love a lot of science fiction or fantasy, which is what Dune goes into, and I don't know, they're just not for me at the end of the day. I think he's he's not, I'm sorry, Denis Villeneuve, you're a very nice man, but he needs to have a little fun. I don't think he has fun.
I will say this about this movie: he has a little bit of fun in this movie.
And I think that this might be why I like
funniest
it the most.
Movie.
Yeah, I just I need my directors to have a sense of humor. I want to know what they think about the world, and I think
he's a little too button up. A little bit sometimes.
I don't know. He's just kind of a nice guy.
Just put your legs up a little bit and just have a laugh, Denis.
But but think about the most intense movies. Sophia, I know you're a big PTA person. There Will Be Blood is a movie that grabs you by the neck and holds you.
Yeah, but that movie's
2.5 hours. But it's funny.
Fucking funny.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's so
movie's
funny.
darkly funny.
It's funny.
It's funny. Yeah. Barry Lyndon, amazing,
hysterical.
Humor, yes, exactly. And
Altman has so many movies where by the end you feel like you got hit in the fucking mouth, Long Kiss Goodbye or
there is
Nashville.
A tinge with Villeneuve of you're trying a little too hard, my man.
Yeah,
I just think he takes it so seriously.
Yeah,
and I think I used to think that a little bit with certain Nolan films, but I revisit them so frequently that I'm like, you know what? No, like you just feel whatever emotion you want to feel here so deeply, and it is so silly sometimes.
But he also
And I like that.
he has a vision. He has a
his
vision.
movies are so silly.
They're so silly, and that's what I like. Like there's some personality there where you're like, okay, you went with this idea and you took it in the weirdest possible way, I love that.
Yeah. I mean, like, there's no fucking way Denny V's ever making a Tenet. Like,
no.
Who thinks of that? That's
Well,
kind
also,
of the great thing about it. It's like, who thinks of that? Who thinks about temporal pincer movements?
Here I think is
like
the difference, though. Like, I think that Denis Villeneuve would love the parts of Tenet that are about like the Seder Square, for instance, and like all of those sorts of like.
Oh, see, but
deep,
Christopher Nolan is like
historical
obsessed with puzzle movie. That's
yeah, but he's better at them.
He does, but I think they're
better
more
at
fun.
them. Yeah, they're more fun.
They can
have humor
be,
in
God,
them.
they can be. Early Nolan does not do it for me.
Like when? Like when does it start? Oh,
I mean, I love The Prestige. Inception, I think, is just kind of a dud.
You know, I finally got on your wavelength about that, Jay, a little bit. When I did the rewatch before Oppenheimer, I watched all of his movies, and I was like, wow, Inception really they just talk a lot, don't they? And
they do.
They don't shut the hell
not
up.
Only do they talk a lot, they just explain
everything.
And
yeah.
The thing I liked about Tenet was that they're just like, I'm going to spit gobbledygook at you. You're not going to understand any of it. And that's okay. It's just going to overwhelm you. And that sensory experience watching a movie is what I love so much, which is why I like Villeneuve.
Yeah.
Because he does have such control over the feel of a movie.
There's a lot of meticulousness. Whether or not those
ideas fully click. And the problem is, you see a Villeneuve movie in a theater, and for me, I'm like, holy shit, that was incredible. And then I go watch it in my living room, and I'm taking notes, and I'm like, okay, this thing, isn't nearly as dense as I really thought it was, outside of being this very visceral experience watching it. Sicario is the ultimate example of that. But I think it's true of everything but Arrival.
Yeah, Jay, I'll even say that because like I like Dune the most out of the three of us here, and even in spoiler alert for our rewatch for our conversation that'll air next week, I was a little lesser on it, and I think it did have the factor of not being in the theater and seeing. I saw it unfairly to my Dune home rewatch. I watched it 2 times in the IMAX. In theaters. It's like that's not going to help that movie when you're seeing it in the best version possible. That being said, I know for a fact when that 4K of Oppenheimer comes home, I'm going to watch that sucker all day long.
Oppenheimer's an absolute banger. Let me ask you this, Sophia, because this is a question
too.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, for sure. So let me ask you this: if you put Nolan's movies and Villeneuve's movies together, this is your favorite one, right? A Blade Runner of Villeneuve. Where does that rank in the combined Nolan Villeneuve hierarchy?
You asked this to Zach, and that was an interesting question. So I'm kind of glad you're asking.
I think they're so in conversation with each other.
Yeah, but one's really clearly better.
I think though the idea, this might get me in trouble, but the thing I always think about with Villeneuve is I think he's a scientist, not an artist. Sometimes, like I think he likes.
See, that's what I thought about early Nolan, was like he's a mathematician with no heart.
Yeah.
No, guys, Nolan's a theoretical physicist. Okay.
Nolan's a silly goose.
He is a silly goose, often.
I love him though.
To his detriment.
He's a good guy.
So
I think Nolan's 3 best movies are the last 3 movies he's made. It's like a bad opinion I hold.
I
would rank Blade Runner 2049 and Arrival, I would say are my 2 favorites of his, but I would still rank both of them below Oppenheimer, Dunkirk. I love Tenet.
Let's go. Tenet Squad, rise up.
Prestige.
See, Sophia, are you with me where
Dark
Nolan's
Knight?
last 3 movies are his 3
Dark
best
Knight.
movies?
No, I love the Prestige. I
love the Prestige.
I do love the Prestige.
I would put that above Tenet.
And I love Dark Knight. I don't care what any. I mean,
Yeah,
I know
no,
that I know it started to seem like now in like the last 5 years, it's like, oh, let's turn on the Dark Knight. No, I put it on 2 months ago. Dark Knight still rolls. It's a great movie. Like,
you're like
See, I think
Einstein going up to Nolan and being like, remember when you created the Dark Knight? Look what you did.
yeah, we changed the world.
I think Arrival was probably my favorite of both of them until Oppenheimer.
Okay.
And now I rank Oppenheimer on top of all of them.
Yeah. I just like I don't know, and Dunkirk moved me more than I'm an emotional movie watcher, as you can tell. But
How do you
Dunkirk
not
moved
love
me way
Arrival?
more. I haven't rewatched it since I saw
Here's
it.
the thing. I mean, Jay.
came
Arrival
out.
is such a clever movie.
I mean, Jay. That's that's the thing. And Sophia, when I said this last week, is that I hadn't seen Arrival since I saw it in the theater because it had such a emotional connection, and also to the events that sort of surround that time when it was released and everything. It's kind of like, I don't know if I want to. It felt like sometimes with Villeneuve, and I think that this is where you ultimately get. And Jay, I think that this might be a little bit where you're going with, but correct me if I'm wrong, Jay. It's that you have such great experiences in the theater that rewatching these multiple times isn't on the same level as like Nolan, where I think that Nolan's movies sometimes, to understand everything or to see everything, or they're more popcorn films. These are more elevated films, and I think also the theater experiences are more visceral and memorable. That you want to keep that original opinion of the film, because when you rewatch it, as we've done, and you start really kind of breaking down some of it, it's not as, you're not on that high as much.
There's not as much
overall.
there.
Exactly.
But
that doesn't mean that the films aren't good and that the performances aren't great and the crafts aren't on that level. But I think Jay's absolutely right. When I see Villeneuve's films in theaters as opposed to when I saw them at home, like watching Dune in a theater was like, holy shit, this is like the birth of a franchise. Watching this movie is like, my God, this is the most beautiful film I've ever seen.
Yeah, but you still freaking love this. We all really like this movie.
No, I'm not. No, I'm just saying, I think that's why, I think that when you're in a theater and it's cold and it's dark, I think it kind of maybe it helps being in that kind of mind space going in for it. And totally. They may not be as rewatchable, but I think that they're definitely experiences I remember a lot. I remember
Sicario in theater was remarkable to me.
Prisoners in theater was terrifying.
I saw Sicario with the worst hangover, one of the worst hangovers I've ever had in my life.
Well, that's how Villeneuve wants you to watch it.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, that's probably how Emily Blunt's
and she
character
never
felt
gave
the
it
entire
another
time.
shot, and that's her definitive opinion of the film.
There we go. I need to watch Arrival again, though. I do, because I did really like it, but it's always one where I've wondered, like, does it hold up on rewatch when you already know what's coming?
Rewatch.
Okay.
Yes, it does. It's actually, to me, you see the opening shot of that film knowing what is coming, and it is just a heart melter.
Okay.
That movie to me is like kind of brilliant.
Okay. I'll revisit.
Do you guys have any thoughts left about Blade Runner 2049? Jay?
Barkhad Abdi cashing in his
I'm the Captain money
critical acclaim for this ? Sad day for him.
I miss him. He
should have done so much more.
Seemed like a good dude.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Turns out he was not the captain of Hollywood.
All right. Okay. Anything else, Professor Snark?
No, I mean, I love Mackenzie Davis to death. I think she's so talented. She's great here in fairly limited screen time.
Yeah.
But
she had more to do.
Yeah, she actually is this very important pivot character into the rebellion.
To the resistance.
But it is, are y'all with me where the resistance is a waste of time?
It is when I kind of tune out. sometimes when
We're
I'm
gonna
watching.
rise up. I mean, it goes back to the whole sequel thing. It's like, we're gonna rise up. All right, cool. We're never gonna fucking see that, but thank you for sharing that for 10 minutes of screen time. Wasting
If
my
this movie
goddamn.
made $500 million, were they going to make a sequel or just the TV show?
No, they're never gonna make a sequel to this.
No, I'm not saying now, but if it had done really well,
No.
it was setting itself up for that.
It
So
always,
bad,
I mean, that's the thing. It's like, you can say the what if for that, but deep down inside, it was never going to happen. The idea of this movie even existing, by the way,
it's crazy.
It's crazy.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like Dune 2 skirting by enough money to from Dune 1. Okay, sure. Like, that's fine. You can justify it. You had you had the day and day release.
There's no way to judge how well.
There's
Dune
no way
did
to judge
until
it.
Dune 2.
But this one, there is no metric out there besides some DVD sales of 9 different versions of the original film to justify giving you 100 at the most
I'm glad they
$185 million.
To be clear,
but good for them, because they're never going to do it again. That's the sad thing. This is when Warner Brothers this wasn't Warner Brothers.
If this was coming out now, they would write it. They would make it a tax write-off and never release it.
Yeah, they'd be like, "Oh, that's not our movie." They would hide it. That's what they would do, and then Kay would have to find it, because, I mean, nobody saw this movie too. I remember coming out of the theater and being like one of like 20 people, and we all were like, "Did you guys just watch what I just watched? That movie was fucking great." And yet,
this was very much a selective audience.
This was a father-daughter adventure.
Oh, did you go with your dad?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. I went with my wife, and she was like, "That movie ruled." I was like, "Thank God you agree," because sometimes you walk out of those things, you never know.
No, this is a J movie. I would never.
You didn't take Allie to it?
Allie through that?
No. She actually rewatched it with me this time, and she's like, "This movie's actually kind of good." And then she's like, "But those Jared Leto eyes are silly." What do you think of the de-aging? There is a de-aging scene in this movie too.
Well, here's another fun fact. My parents went to high school with Sean Young. Yeah.
Oh, really? Was she nice? Yeah. Do they have nice things to say about her?
Apparently she was all right. I think she was in the band or something.
What she played? Clarinet?
She played, hold on, let me think.
Oboe's a good guess.
Joke.
Play the synthesizer?
I can't think of anything.
Play the synthesizer?
Vangelis. I think she's so good in the original. And the de-aging here, I mean,
it's not great.
It's almost like the artifice plays.
Yeah.
But also it's, it doesn't look great.
When Ford's talking about her, I weep inside. I'm like broken. I'm like, please don't talk about her, and don't talk about Rachel anymore. When he just goes, Rachel, and you're like, oh, don't.
Her eyes were green.
Oh yeah, her eyes were green is an incredible
Son of a bitch.
And then when he turns around and they just shoot her in the head.
Woo. And he's like, he lost her again.
But also good. He knows it's not the same.
He knows it's not the same.
It's very powerful.
Yeah.
Harrison Ford's freaking good in this.
He's great. I think Ryan Gosling is just thinking about my like final thoughts on the movie, or just like trying to not go off on 10 tangents. I do have one more.
Let's go on a Gosling tangent. I think he might be my favorite actor of the last 15 years.
He's the perfect person for this movie.
He is the perfect movie star.
Yeah. I mean, he just, the way that he looks bored in some scenes too just adds to his like robot sort of persona.
That's his Nick Refn state.
He just feels so he's the prettiest guy in the world. One of the prettiest guys in the world, and yet he feels so natural as an actor.
He's the number one.
No, I mean he's gorgeous, but yet he's able to also transform into characters. He's so versatile. He's hysterical. I mean,
so funny.
Like Barbie is a great example, but before that, like the Nice Guys. Yeah,
he is one of the great physical comedians of his era. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean,
one of the best.
he can go from playing in The Nice Guys to being in a movie like this to being in Blue Valentine and Absolutely Wrecking Your Heart to being in Crazy Stupid Love and in
Blue
Drive.
Valentine, one of the scariest movies of all time.
Weirdly, also darkly funny at times. I don't know why I laugh
It can
at
be, but that movie
it's fucked up.
sends me into a tailspin.
Yeah.
It's also one I'm not rewatching a lot, but damn it, it's good.
Drive, first movie I ever went to with my wife.
Oh yeah, that was.
Oh my God.
I said, let's leave. I'm sorry.
My favorite part of that story that you tell, Jay, is it was the foot stomping in the elevator, the crunch that was like,
yep,
this is it. And the fact that she stuck around with you all these years after that.
I mean, I remember going to the movie. I was like, it's Ryan Gosling. It's like a
Carey Mulligan. It's an action. It's a
It'll
noir.
be like a fun little stylish
like
action
Thief.
movie. And it was in some ways. And it was a lot of other stuff too.
Do you remember the next movie you guys went on after that? Or was it a long time?
I mean, that's the one that sticks out. I mean,
was it
we
like
went to other stuff? I was taking her to movies all the time.
But just not ones with guys getting their face stomped on by Ryan Gosling.
No. Yeah, I definitely audited my movies beforehand a little bit more.
Do you guys think he's gonna? You guys think he's gonna win this year?
The Oscar?
No, I don't think so.
No, I mean,
he'll get nominated.
I think he'll get nominated.
I think he'll get nominated.
But it just kind of, not to call anything, but I would be surprised if Robert Downey Jr. didn't win.
Yeah. I don't know. I just been thinking about Gosling.
So I just been thinking
about Gosling and just how, honestly, in a Barbie movie, he kind of steals the show.
He does. For a lot of people, he is the biggest takeaway from that movie.
And he's also going to be in like the like when they play the "I'm Just Ken" stuff, which is an amazing song. If that gets nominated, that's going to help him too. I mean, I'm not trying to play that, but he's also. Nobody doesn't like him. Everybody loves him. He's such a nice guy.
I'm just looking at his filmography now.
The thing about him too with Barbie, quickly, like with the Oscars, I think the people vote two ways. They vote because everyone else is voting a certain way and they just name check because they're lazy, or they really want to vote. It's like a general election. They want to actually vote for someone. Like they want to like who they're voting for. And if they're voting that way, I can see Gosling really being the one.
Well, it's it's kind of the perfect two candidates for that sort of situation when you have
they're
Downey
making
and
a big
Downey
statement
and
by
Gosling.
giving Downey his Oscar.
Well, it's like, hey, you finally did something serious after being pew pew Iron Man for forever. But then also too, this is like Gosling's gone away for a couple of years and he's a good dad and a good husband and doesn't do as many projects as much as you would think. But then, and he gives himself.
Watch The Gray Man.
I don't need to.
That was his first movie since 2018.
Yeah, I mean, he's even good in like a movie like The Ides of March, a movie that's
I saw that.
Great in Crazy Stupid Love.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, he's great. Have you ever seen Fracture with him and Anthony Hopkins?
No.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Ever seen Song to Song? Great.
Yeah.
Movie. Let's go.
You ever seen Remember the Titans? He's great. They bench him in everything.
He's truly.
He's been in our lives
maybe
for
my favorite actor of the last 15 years.
He's been in our lives.
He's been around longer than that.
20.
He's so good in First Man too.
That's a movie I don't even like that much, but he's amazing.
But he's great in it. Yeah.
Ryan Gosling, good at his job. He's great here. This is
so handsome.
Beautiful man.
Top 3
my God.
Gosling performance, I think, is this one.
Yeah.
For me.
Oof.
Yeah.
Love looking at him.
Anywho. Jay.
I hate looking at him. It makes me feel bad.
Does it make Jay? Before we get out of here, we're going to test your award season knowledge based on the film we just reviewed, which was Blade Runner 2049, in a segment we like to call "It's an Honor to Get Nominated."
Yes.
Jay, was Blade Runner 2049 nominated for Oscars?
It was.
How many Oscars?
We're pretty recent at this point.
Pretty recent. This is like 6 years ago.
Yeah.
It won one. Yep, that's right.
Deakins won for cinematography. Oh man, I don't think it got anything above the line.
That's correct.
God, production design.
Yep.
Zimmer probably got score.
Nope.
No?
No.
Zimmer's normally a shoe-in for that. Sound.
Yes, they got both sounds.
Yep. I don't think it would have gotten Stooms.
What?
Costumes? Stooms?
Stooms? It did not get Stooms. My God. There's an easy layup one.
Adapted screenplay?
Yeah, that's above the line.
Oh, so it didn't get that.
Screenplays are above the line.
I disagree with that.
That's
big
what it
below
is.
the line.
They're not below the Yeah, big below
No,
the
I said
line.
a big below line.
Yeah, like Jay, like when you see a movie like this.
Editing.
No, but that's a good guess. When you see a movie like this, you think, oh, a sci-fi movie. It must have been nominated for
Special effects.
There you go. It won special effects. It's 5 Oscars. There you go, Jay.
So it was nominated for 5 and it won 2?
Yeah. All below the line. Did not get into screenplay. Did not get into picture.
Give me supporting actor for this year.
Supporting actor was Sam Rockwell for 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri.
Boom, knock him out.
Woody Harrelson
Harrison
for
Ford.
3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri.
Boom, Harrison Ford in for him as well. We got 2 Fords so far.
Willem Dafoe for The Florida Project.
No, you can keep him in.
Richard Jenkins for The Shape of Water.
Absolutely keep him in.
And
Dickie Jenks, come on now.
Christopher Plummer for All the Money in the World. little Riddler action in there.
No comment on that one.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'd put him in there.
Yeah.
I'd kick out Rockwell.
Out of those, for sure. 3 Billboards stinks.
Yeah,
It's not good.
it's not good. I'd also nominate. I'm trying to think of like all the people from this
You
year.
know what?
This is a Stolbarg year for Call Me by Your Name. This is like
Let's bump out Allison Janney and put in Ana de Armas.
Yes, please.
Damn.
But we'd still give it to Leslie Manville for Phantom Thread.
Correct. Yes.
No. Sophia, Phantom Thread does not deserve anything. You don't even like that movie.
No, I've never seen it before.
I think you would put PTA in original screenplay. Kick out 3 Billboards.
Oh
What's your
my
favorite
God.
movie of 2017? Sophia, Phantom Thread, I assume.
Yes, Phantom Thread.
Ryan?
Phantom Thread.
Yeah, mine is Phantom Thread as well.
Yeah. What's your number
Oh,
2?
goodness.
That's the real question.
My number 2
Ooh.
is The Lost City of Zed.
That's a good movie. That's one of Tom Holland's best performances.
Well, that's a low bar, but yes, it is.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Ooh.
I know it's a low bar.
It's a low bar because he's
Maybe-
so short.
Exactly. He's tiny.
Oh my God.
It's Dunkirk for me.
Oh, Dunkirk. Let me
Love-
think. Let
love me some
pull up my
Dunkirkage.
Letterboxed list.
You got Lady
Here.
Bird,
Oh, I do love Lady Bird.
Get Out.
Get Out, Call Me by Your Name,
Mhm.
Shape of Water.
Roman
I
J.
loved-
Israel Esquire.
I loved A Ghost
Post?
Story.
Oh, a ghost story.
Love a ghost story.
Love a story with some ghosts.
Good time.
Mhm.
Good times good.
Good time is a
Mudbound.
good
I
time.
like Mudbound.
I think I would go
Mhm.
I would actually go Lady Bird second for me.
Lady Bird's very good.
Lady
Mhm.
Bird is very good.
It's a good film.
Oh, Coco came out that year.
Coco.
Wanna make me cry?
Trying to look at my.
This
Oh my
was
God,
the
I
year
just remembered that the John Williams score got in
for
for Star Wars.
not this year.
Yeah, didn't it?
No.
This is
Oh, wait.
Last Jedi year, isn't it?
Is
Yeah,
this
but
Last
didn't he
Jedi?
get in again
Mhm.
for Last Jedi?
Oh yeah, he did. I'm sorry, he got in for all of those.
Looking
yeah.
at my lowest rated film of the year, The Dark Tower.
Oh,
Oh,
talk
that was
about
bad.
bad sci-fi.
Yeah.
Ooh.
This was the year Kobe won his Oscar for Dear Basketball. R.I.P.
Yeah. R.I.P.
My
Um,
lowest film of the year was Snatched, starring Amy Schumer and
Never saw that
Goldie
one.
Hawn.
Yeah, this was. Yeah, you're right, Sophia. Desplat won for Shape of
Ugh.
Water.
Stole
then-
Johnny Greenwood's Oscar.
Zimmer
Three
got Zimmer did get in. Jay, he got in for Dunkirk over Blade Runner.
Well, Dunkirk is a better score than this.
Yeah, that
Mhm.
is. Yeah, and then John Williams for Last Jedi, and then Carter Burwell for Three Billboards.
Three Billboards coming in hot at number 76 for me.
I don't know where. Yeah. Honestly,
That movie is so bad, and I like Martin McDonagh, but holy cow, that movie stinks.
I love The Last Jedi, though. It's my favorite of the new
too.
Star Wars movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I wish that that Banshees got Three Billboards. They're awesome.
I agree. Banshees rocks.
Mm-hmm.
Banshees rules. I love Banshees. That movie's going to age so well over the next couple of years.
Gosling should be an actor this year.
Yeah, we can kick out Oldman.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God, Denzel for Roman J. Israel Esquire.
That's such
I forgot that happened.
I love Roman J. Israel. I'm like the Roman J. Israel Esquire stan of America. I love that movie.
I would put
kick him out.
Gosling
I'd
in
kick out Oldman.
Yeah, Oldman in like the whale makeup.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Remember The Whale?
Yeah.
That was wild.
Trying not to remember it, Jay. That's the point.
I try to forget things that Sadie Sink stars in.
I mean, I would pretty firmly put Blade Runner 2049 in the best picture lineup.
Yeah, I'd kick out Three Billboards or Darkest Hour or Shape of Water.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a big Shape of Water guy.
Or The Post. I mean, it's better than I like The Post, but it's better.
I like
than The
Post. I mean, I wasn't going to kick out The Post. I like The Post. You mean the Post should not be called The Post. It should be called The Papers, because they say The Papers 900,000 times in that. You get the papers? Have you got the papers? Get the papers?
Oh God, that just makes me think of Goodfellas.
Yeah.
Imagine making a movie on a whim, and it's The Post.
Because you're like,
pretty impressive.
The visual effects. It's not working all the way with Ready Player One, a movie that doesn't exist. And then he's like, yeah, I'll just do something, a little side project with, I don't know, Meryl Streep and Tom Hanks and all these wonderful character actors like, you know, Sarah Paulson, Bob Odenkirk, Tracy Letts, Bradley Whitford, Bruce Greenwood, Matthew Rhys, Carrie Coon, Alison Brie, David Cross, Jesse Plemons. This is the start of the Jesse Plemons gets nominated in a bunch of Best Picture winner contenders, but it hasn't won yet, right?
Yeah,
because Plemons is
love a tall glass of lemonade.
I love Plemons. He's great.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think he's one of our more interesting actors we have working today. He's picking really great projects. I mean, he was in
one of the
Bridges-
most insulting but also accurate nicknames for any performer is Fat Damon for Jesse Plemons.
Yeah,
apologies
I feel
to
bad
Jesse
for him.
Plemons,
Yeah,
but he does look like Fat Damon.
Jay, he has been in Bridge of Spies, The Post, Vice, The Irishman, Judas and the Black Messiah, The Power of the Dog.
Mm-hmm.
That's 6 Best Picture nominees in the
he's my favorite actor
since 2015.
That's not true, but I like him.
He was also in The Master. Plays the
He was?
Thomas or Philip Seymour Hoffman's son.
Just
in that.
saw that one.
He's going to be in Killers of the Flower Moon, which will make it 7.
He sure is.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm gonna book that, Dano.
I need to see that movie.
And I love Plemons. I forgot Stuhlbarg's in that movie too. In the Post.
He'll always be Landry to me, though.
Yeah, he'll always be Landry. He'll always
Never watched that.
You never watched Friday Night Lights?
No.
Great show, so movie.
TV's for chumps.
Wow, that's. Yeah, he's always telling me all the time, Twin Peaks, you gotta watch Twin Peaks: The Return. Twin Peaks.
Look, if David Lynch directed Friday Night Lights, I would have watched it.
Honestly, I would pay to see it. Could you imagine?
Oh my God.
That Elementi score to Friday Night Lights?
Yeah. Oh my, actually, you know what? It could probably work. That score could work on anything, to be fair.
Yeah.
Would you put Denis Villeneuve in director? This is an all-time director lineup. This is probably the last great director lineup across the board that everybody pretty much loves. Even if you don't like Shape of Water, Del Toro is Del Toro, and then you got Christopher Nolan, Dunkirk, Jordan Peele, Get Out, Greta Gerwig, Lady Bird, and Paul Thomas Anderson for Phantom Thread. That's like Hollywood in a nutshell. I mean, right there, by the way. That's like who do you think maybe are like the 5 most influential modern
I like
directors?
this
You
movie
might
a
be able to
lot
just do that.
more than The Shape of Water is what I will say. But whatever. I get
would
it.
kick out Del Toro because he wins picture and he gets his animated feature Oscar. And I just want to know who wins if he's not there, because I think that's actually more interesting to think about.
Oh, I know who wins. I think it's pretty easy. I think Nolan would win.
I think Jordan Peele wins.
I think Paul Thomas Anderson wins.
Don't do this. Don't say things like that. That's
not winning an Oscar is something that you should be proud of.
It's a badge of honor.
He would follow in the footsteps of his mentor, Robert Altman, in doing so. Yeah. And Kubrick. I think Kubrick, Hitchcock, right?
Godard. I mean, there's so many. Bergman,
Kurosawa.
The great ones never win Best Director.
What do you think? Who's Paul Thomas Anderson's favorite director?
Robert Altman. Robert Altman.
Ever?
Or is it Demi?
Now? Demi's up there for sure for him. It's like Altman or Demi.
I think Demi was like a.
I feel like he talks like about Demi more fondly.
I think it was that was like a friendship.
Watching The Master, that is his Demi movie. Weirdly,
yeah. I think Marty and Spielberg are up there too because he just grew up closer.
It is his Demi movie, but it's also so much more just slightly beyond arm's length than anything Demi could ever imagine of.
I just think that Altman's the first one. You know, he's just. I mean, the man shadowed him and helped him make his last
directed
movie, Prairie Home Companion.
And he told him he wanted to copy him.
Yeah,
which he did for the first half of his career.
And then he evolved from that and became.
I had forgotten. I just watched Raging Bull. I had forgotten that Boogie Nights just copies the last scene of Raging Bull.
Yeah. Which is great.
Do you remember that Babylon copied
Boogie Nights? All of Boogie Nights? Yes, I did.
Yeah.
And the movie's not good.
It's
Babylon's
crazy.
great.
No, it's not.
It's not as good as Boogie Nights. But
no, Boogie Nights is.
It's just crazy how it's like copyright infringement level. When you watch
it's like
Nights
it's
again.
like I just watch.
Like, oh my god!
And I know Jay, you're gonna say that like that's the point of the movie, but it's
it's not the point of the movie. But Boogie Nights is also derivative of so much other stuff too.
Yeah, but it also is also too.
All art is derivative. We're back to Denis Villeneuve.
Except Denis Villeneuve doesn't give the twist that a Paul Thomas Anderson, or I don't know. I mean, I'm not a Chazelle stan, but whatever.
I don't know. You kind of sound like you are.
I prefer the films of Damien Chazelle to Denis Villeneuve.
Yeah,
I prefer Villeneuve, but Chazelle's growing on me. My most recent my big takeaway from watching The Master in the theater, got to see it on 70, which was great.
Oh, jealous.
Was The Master is when Paul Thomas Anderson became his own filmmaker. That is my opinion.
Oh, that late.
That is my take.
Wait, you think The Master's when he?
Yes, I do.
I think it's There Will Be Blood, but I think
There Will Be Blood is very derivative of
Kubrick.
A Robert Altman film.
No,
Miss Miller.
That feels.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's. I don't know if it's as
thematically that is so aligned with McQuade and Miss Miller. It is crazy.
It is thematically, but I still think it. I don't know.
But also, they're great mirrors to one another.
Yeah.
Again, but everything from The Master on is so enigmatic and specific in ways that none of his previous stuff was. I don't think.
True, but I think he stopped. I think the culmination of all those influences are in There Will Be Blood, and yet he's still doing and saying his own definitive voice, and so that part is then carried over into the next project. Which
tonally, it's different. I think I would say tonally, that's when he starts kind of establishing who he would become for, at least to this point, the rest of his career. But
Okay, so
I mean, it's kind of it. Some people might say that The Master is sort of his Akon City,
oh, for God's sake.
where he's really just carving out a space for himself in the same
For
way that Akon has.
God's sake, I thought we were not going to go through this.
I just imagined the Philip Seymour Hoffman character going to Akon City. And
In The Master,
yeah.
No, I think more.
you know, it'd be even weirder
Akon
than that. The one from
Punch-
Boogie Nights.
I was going to say the one from
Oh,
Punch
yeah.
Drunk Love.
The one from Boogie Nights would be really funny.
Would you guys have nominated Jared Leto at the Razzies?
No,
No.
Okay, good.
Who was nominated there? Do you have that list?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, Sophia. It would be in worst supporting actor.
has Akon ever been in a movie?
You can look that up on your own time off mic. Anthony Hopkins for Transformers: The Last Night. Josh Duhamel, Transformers: The Last Night. Russell Crowe for The Mummy.
Oh,
Javier
no.
Bardem got nominated for two things: for Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man Tell No Tales, and Mother.
Exclamation point.
Because that's why you're supposed to say, you're not supposed to say mother, you're supposed to say mother. But the winner for
Movie
worst
is
supporting
trash.
actor was Mel Gibson for Daddy's Home 2.
Mm.
Yeah.
So Akon has been in 3 movies.
I'm looking at the other winners. The
I
other
can
one,
always
the
count.
other.
Sophia is my ultimate ally on this journey.
You both got to stop. This is.
He was in Pop Star.
Never Stop, Never Stopping.
Mhm.
Good movie.
I love that movie. One of the funniest
American
movies.
Heist and Black November.
Do you want to guess
How
what
many
the
Oscars was Black November nominated for?
Not a single thing.
Interesting.
Jay, Sophia, would you like to guess what the worst picture at the Razzies was?
Mother?
No, it wasn't nominated, but Aronofsky was nominated for director.
It's where he belongs.
That's where he belongs.
My phone just died, so I can't cheat.
It was an animated film. We use
Animated
these
film from
all the time.
2017.
27. Animated.
Emoji Movie.
The Emoji Movie
Oh my
was the winner over Baywatch, 50 Shades Darker, The Mummy, and Transformers: The Last Night. The worst actor was Tom Cruise for The Mummy.
God.
Worst
That movie
support.
is so bad.
Worst
That movie
supporting
stinks.
actress was Kim Basinger for 50 Shades Darker to follow up her worst.
I was gonna say not for LA Confidential.
which is also considered one of the
Excuse me?
worst Oscar wins of all time. Yeah, it's a big thing.
It's a tough
Jay.
win.
Yeah, people.
Are you
don't-
kidding me?
People don't
No.
love that Oscar win, Jay.
Mm-mm.
God, people are so stupid.
I too can part my hair to the side.
I will
Sophia,
say-
that's enough.
I will also say the worst actress winner is Why the Razzies Are Not a Serious Organization. They gave it to Tyler Perry for Boo 2, A Medea Halloween.
Honestly, good bit.
They are insane organizations.
That's a good bit.
But yeah, I wouldn't have nominated Leto, but I know some people would have just because it's Jared Leto. You know, they would have just nominated Leto because people have just a negative opinion about Jared Leto. It wouldn't even have been about the performance.
When has Leto been good?
Fight Club. He's good in.
I
He's
think-
good.
Brain
He's good in
speed.
Panic Room too. He's good in Panic Room.
He's really searching for his version of the James Gum role from Silence of the Lambs. I think that's what he wants. He's searching for it.
He's good in. Is he good in American Psycho? I haven't seen that movie in a long time.
Oh, that's just such a Christian Bale movie.
But
I
since
think he's fine.
since his Oscar win, has he delivered a performance that you were like, that's good?
I thought he was really scary in The Little Things. Like I wouldn't nominate him.
He's
Oh.
getting. You know what? Here we go. You ready for this? Really good in House of Gucci.
Yeah, there you
That's
go.
my
You know,
take.
he's one of the people who knows what movie that
Yes,
is.
exactly. That's my take.
Yeah.
But it's me, Paolo.
He
Yeah,
and Lady
it's so
Gaga
good.
knew, I think,
Yeah,
what that movie was.
Driver a little too.
Why
But-
are they just
Pacino
Adam
too.
Driver as an Italian? I don't
know.
have questions.
I thought Leto
Well,
and
get ready for
Pacino,
round 2.
Mhm.
Leto and Pacino together in that movie were insane, and I
Mhm.
loved kind of the chaos of bringing them together. It wasn't just wasn't campy enough. It was
He's
too
in
serious.
Haunted Mansion. Oh, he's a voice.
Oh my
Oh
god.
God, of course he is.
That movie was so
Did you watch it?
punishing. Yes.
Why?
Because
Because you hate yourself?
on my pod, we were doing like a summer release roundup and we were doing like a take one for the team situation. And I saw that and I can't remember
What did Nick see?
now what he saw instead, but it was also bad. I can't remember. I'm blanking. It was another bad one.
Yeah, he's
probably
just
not as bad as the Haunted Mansion though.
Haunted Mansion's all.
It was so bad.
I watched the trailer.
It was
and
2
it looked
hours long.
It's two. That movie should have been an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wait, yeah, I'll think of it.
Here's a parallel I found in this film.
Here we go.
Jared Leto as the Joker in Suicide Squad has the line, "I'm not going to kill you. I'm just going to hurt you really, really bad." And he basically says the exact same thing in this movie to Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Derivative of David Ayer.
There you go. Why don't you go on Twitter and talk to David Ayer about that?
Villeneuve has just been trying to imitate David Ayer for his entire career.
He's been wanting to make a Suicide Squad movie for a long, long time.
And people, let me just say, release the Ayer cut.
Okay. And with that, Sophia, thank you for coming on another wild episode of the show. Can you tell everybody out there where they can find you and all your work on the internet?
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me back on. It was a lot of fun as always. You can find me on Twitter as long as it exists at Sophia_Sim. You can find me on Blue Sky and Letterboxd at Sophia Sim without the underscore. You can find my podcast, Oscar Wilde, at Oscar Wilde Pod. We release episodes every Friday. And you can also find all of my work, reviews, coverage of Telluride, and more podcasting at AwardsWatch.
Yep. Go read all of her stuff from the festival. It was great coverage. Great coverage.
Thank you.
Jay, where can we find you? And
Find me on the r/release the Ayer cut subreddit. You can find me on Twitter at release the Ayer cut. And you can find me on Letterboxd at J Ledbetter, where I exclusively review David Ayer films.
I can't wait for them all to listen to this and come after you. They are the most insufferable people on the internet.
Well, get ready for a David Ayer series. That's all I got to say about that.
Oh, forgot. No. I'm going to put my foot down. No to that. You can find me on Twitter.
Right.
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd at Ryan McQuade 77. You can follow my work here at awardswatch.com. You can subscribe to our newsletter by going to awardswatch.com, and then you'll get that newsletter sent out to you twice a week so you can get all of our coverage and all the podcasts and everything sent to you. And while you're talking about podcasts, we have the Awards Watch podcast that comes out every Monday, that we record every Sunday for you guys. And if you could, please go to iTunes and Spotify, give us 5 stars. We'd love those 5-star reviews. And next week will be the final episode
Finale
in our Denis Villeneuve movie series. It will be covering Dune Part 1, and you can stream that right now on Max if you want to watch that film this week to follow along with us here on the show. But I'm going to be wrapping up another movie series. It went by so quick. We've been having such a great time so far doing this. Thank you, Sophia, and we will see you all next time.